Well, leadership starts right at the front. And I think one of the big reasons so many people here in Newcastle are so positive about the season ahead is because there's a guy called Mark Milligan who's leading the team forward. I was keen to talk to Mark about the things that he thought were important from a performance and recovery perspective, but also about some of the incredible moments that he's had in his career and what brought him to this point and the season ahead. Mark, thanks for joining us.
No problem.
It's been a bit of a wild ride for you, and you've ended up back here in Newcastle. Tell me about it.
Yeah, football has a funny way of sending you in full circles. So, obviously played here when I was younger for a period of time, and during my coaching journey now, I've been on for about 5 years, and the stars aligned to a degree, and when this opportunity came, it was sort of too good a chance for myself to come back to Newcastle and start my head coaching journey.
Yeah. We'll get to your coaching in a minute, mate, but let's talk about, you as a player. You've kind of been around the world a little bit, haven't you?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Been fortunate and in many ways. Obviously younger, I played quite a bit through Asia. Had trouble sort of getting into the UK with passports and visas and things like that. So
you're not on a kind of terrorist list or something like that?
No.
Okay, good. Not on a terrorist list. Okay.
No, obviously a lot of restrictions and things around sort of foreign players, especially. It was a long time ago now, especially when I was sort of coming through. So yeah, but look, I was very fortunate in the experiences that I had as a player.
Yeah.
For myself and my family as well. I've got 4 girls. 2 of them have been born abroad, and
wow.
But yeah, in terms of football, that experience, put me in good stead for sort of now as well. So, again, like I say, you look back and a lot of fond memories, and like I said, very fortunate to play in the countries that I did.
How does it feel to only have played in 4 World Cups?
Yeah, obviously good. It's a funny one because while it's happening, it was. For me, the national team was a big part of everything that I did in terms of I was always very sort of focused on playing playing where I needed to make sure I was available for the national team. So he played a big part in my career and it dictated a lot to my family as well.
Yes, of course.
Like I said, I was very fortunate to have a family that was happy to sort of do that. But we made a lot of sacrifices for the national team, and I just feel like that was as much reward for what I gave up for our national team as anything.
Do you feel it's in Australia? It's obviously a real kind of pinnacle achievement in sport. Do you think more so in Australia versus other countries?
Yeah. Look, like I said, I think
the answer could be no, by the way.
Yeah, it is. I think, especially if you look like sort of back to that 2006 squad where I was very young and very fortunate to be a part of. I think it probably meant more to us because the footballing journey for us as kids, it was probably very different to what it's like now for kids coming through.
Yeah.
I had moments where my mum we moved to Perth when I would have been about 10 or 11. And, I grew up in sort of the inner west of Sydney. And, it wasn't too unusual to play football.
Yes.
When I went to Perth, I remember my first day at school, I got chased home.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, because I went with the football.
Okay. Of course it was.
AFL,
Yeah.
Very, very foreign to them at the time. And those sort of stories were sort of very common amongst, especially that sort of generation, that 06 generation. Similar stories coming through, and you're sort of fighting against the grain a little bit to do what we loved.
For sure. Milligan's a pretty Anglo-Saxon name for inner city Sydney, mate.
Yeah. Look, that's probably another story as well. So it's not a true indication of sort of my background and where I came from. But grew up out there, and I said very fortunate because it was a footballing loving community.
Yes, for sure.
You very much, rugby league was still prevalent and things like that. But as I said, you definitely felt part of the community, obviously playing a lot of my juniors through sort of Auburn, Bankstown, Granville.
Yeah, okay. So you're a Bulldogs man at heart?
Yeah. Well,
sort of.
Yeah, kind of. But it comes with the territory.
For sure.
Doesn't it?
Yeah. It's funny chatting with Rosie just now. Because you've obviously reunited with him.
Yeah.
Because he was telling me about playing with you as a teammate.
Yes.
And his experience, working with you as a teammate and now as a manager. What's that like for you?
Look, I think there's been enough sort of separation there in terms of when we played to now, but Look, I've always found, and in this coaching sort of journey, you know, one thing I probably picked up when I was playing was, especially with head coaches, if you're sort of honest to who you are, and you don't have that shift, and
Yep.
then it's not really too big of an issue.
Yes.
I think, you know, it's nice having someone like Rosie, because I think he has I'm not a totally different person to the person I was when I played.
Sure.
You know, I still sort of demand the same qualities
Yes.
within players and people as I did then. So it's nice in a way to have someone, I guess, who maybe understands me a little bit as well, not just on the field,
Yeah.
but away
Yeah.
from it,
Yeah.
and helps drive, and knows that, you know, even the tough times, or even the times I get cranky, I do get cranky sometimes. But
You seem
know,
pretty happy-go-lucky, I
to
must
have
say, mate.
someone that understands the intent behind it
Yeah,
as well.
for sure. You know, I don't want to blow smoke up your ass, but, you know, culture is the big word that people are talking about here. And I must say, even just being here this morning for what we're doing, every single one of these players walked up to me, said hello, shook my hand. Everyone's got a smile on their face. There seems to be a really, really good vibe here at the moment. Are you noticing that?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, you know, I love to take all the credit for sort of that as well. But generally speaking, you know, the group, especially the group that's here now, you know, had a lot of good people in there. So it wasn't a sort of a big shift in mentality to sort of get to the culture heading in the direction that we wanted. And I'm very, very big on sort of, even when it comes to the way that we play our football, on we might set that groundwork, you know, we might provide that platform for them, whether it's football or, like you say, the culture they're developing is very much up to the players to drive.
Yep.
And even when we look at recruitment and things like that, it's obviously sort of at the front of the forefront of everything that we do. It's people first.
Yeah. Was Ange Postecoglou a bit ripped off after winning the Europa Cup?
Yeah, I'd probably have to say yes. I mean, he gave a fantastic speech after.
He did,
Well,
didn't
I
he?
would have handed it over just on that. He is. Look, he did. It's an incredibly tough job over there.
Yes,
I think
yeah.
it's a, you know, it's a different world, and you know, even myself, we all watch sort of on TV and have an understanding of how hard it is. But when you're in and amongst it,
Yeah.
you know, it's you know, I thought he did a fantastic job there. He did what a lot of very, very highly qualified coaches couldn't do in the past as well, and he went and won them a trophy.
He really did. Forgive my ignorance, how much did you have to do with Ange during your career?
Yeah, so the first time I came across Ange was he brought me into an under-20s camp when I would have only been probably 16, 17 at the time. So I had him through 2 campaigns in the under-20s, and then he's actually the one who sort of, I was in Japan and I loved Japan. He'd obviously done what he did with Brisbane Roar. Ange was the one who sort of reached out and twisted my arm to come back to Melbourne Victory.
Right,
To
okay.
play underneath him. So I had him for about a year and a half there. And then, obviously that 4-year sort of span when he had the national team. So spent quite a bit of time with Ange. And, you know, you talk about people who sort of have influences on your career. And you know, there's been a few coaches especially that have been able to do that. But I think he came at a difficult time for me in terms of Japan. I wasn't having things all my own way, and that sort of olive branch, I guess, he put out, he changed me in a lot of ways in terms of the way I look at the game, in terms of the way I played at the time.
Yeah, right.
And you know, when someone when a coach sort of has that influence, those tendencies tend to stick with you.
Wow. And so as a coach, do you think you've taken any kind of influence from him?
Yeah.
Especially maybe even in style and system? I mean, he likes to run a lot, doesn't he, Ange?
Yeah, it was definitely something that I probably always had as a player from the beginning. You know, growing up, I was always a little bit smaller than everyone. I have to find a point of difference. So that side of the game was sort of always in me. He definitely brought it out. And yeah, there's definitely things that are similar. There's you know, things that are very, very different to the way that Ange did things as well. But as I say, when you have someone, I guess, you know, that sort of aura about them as well, you tend to hold on to things.
Sure, yeah. So, I mean, when you talk about like a style of play like that, you know, you get tired legs, right, towards the end of matches. How much of a focus, how much emphasis is there on conditioning in pre-season to make sure that you're ready to go?
Yeah, absolutely. For me as well, it's more about when we talk about the conditioning side of things. So a little bit of context, I guess we definitely want to play a very high intensity game. We want to be on the front foot all the time. So it's not sort of enough for me to have the boys running around the field doing 10, 15 kilometres, whatever it is. We need to condition them to play the way that we want to play every day.
Yeah.
So the only thing that will shift for us between sort of now and the end of the season will be the length of the session. So we still won't train for a long time, but we will, every time we step onto the field, I expect them to be at a match day intensity.
Yeah, got it. Okay. And how much focus is there on your sports science and nutrition programs here to make sure that you're really getting the most you possibly can out of each player?
Yeah, well, it's like our football as well. We want to be on the cutting edge of the football and of the way that we play and the way that we do things. And that's definitely the as bigger, if not bigger, part of what we do. If we are not able to firstly prepare the boys in the best possible way to provide what we want out on the field, then it's kind of nothing sort of works. And that's after training as well. We need them to make sure they're doing the right things when they get off the field. Like you said, that's nutrition, that's hydration, that's the work that they do when they're not with us as well. So it's very important that we are able to provide, and we're very lucky. We've got Chris Smith in that S&C department who has a very knowledgeable background, not just in sort of football, but that he's able to sort of control that. And as I said, what I ask of the players, I ask of myself and my staff as well.
I was fortunate enough to have a bit of time to tell you about KURE just earlier, especially about this study we did at London South Bank Uni, which showed that one bottle before exercise reduced lactate by 20% and reduced blood pressure post-exertion by 5%. You know, in a world where people like you are busting a gut for a 0.5% improvement in some areas, that must sound pretty appealing to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, we've only had a brief conversation on it, but as with football, as off the field, we want to be sort of right on the edge of what's coming next, and how do we get the maximum out of players. And it's not just performance, it's physically as well. How do we get them to recover the best that they can? And as I said, with people and companies like this coming on board for us, I won't say it makes the job easier, because it doesn't, but what it does is it gives us another tool to be able to help the players be the best they possibly can every day.
Love that. Well, Mark, thank you so much. Best of luck for the season ahead, and we really appreciate your time here on the KURE Lab.
No worries. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Cheers, mate.